All right, hello and welcome to Swing It and Ding It, an iHeartMedia podcast. Man, this is a birdie fest.
It's a Philly show, baby.
Philly
Let's
show.
go.
That's right. Welcome into Swing It and Ding It. This is Moose along with Mays and Matthews, and we are sponsored by My Balls, Wear SBF, Justin Thomas's great sunblock company. We'll talk about that more. Bet Parx, we'll see the line later for the Rocket Mortgage, and also Rita's Water Ice. Stop by Rita's today and try the new Rocket Pop Ice. Our friends at Rita's. Even though our golf outing got moved to October, they're still involved and still supporting this. So very, very happy to hear that. And we're keeping it Philly this week. We have on Nate Oxman, teacher, writer, outside services assistant at Merion, and author of the Philly Phenoms. Welcome to Swing It and Ding It. Nate, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me. Staying cool in here in my air conditioning.
Now, we're in your list of accolades. Where does friend of Sean Palmer, where does that fall in there? It's got to be up there pretty high.
Yeah, I'm gonna butter him up here since he helped me get on the show. It's definitely high up there. He's a great guy. Even though I'm a little older than him, he was at Merion, I think, right after he graduated from Penn State. I graduated from Penn State maybe 3 or 4 years earlier than him, but he's a role model. You know, he acts and presents himself much older than he is, and he does everything the right way. So he's a great guy.
One of my favorite people that I've met doing this, and one of the reasons why I love doing this is because of meeting people like him and now you. So welcome to Swing It and Ding It. So there's a lot to get into, right? We like to talk about the golf journey and where you started and where you got to. But let's start with the present, though, because this is I'm sure had to be a massive undertaking in writing this book. When did you decide you wanted to do this? And then how long did it take to really get it from a concept to literally having a published book?
Okay, so I had the idea maybe 20 years ago for this story about this kid who falls in love with golf based on a little bit of my childhood and some things I picked up along the way. And then I started writing it maybe 10 years after that. I was a sports writer for a long time, and then I went back to school to get certified to teach. So in that transition, when I was supposed to be paying attention in night class, I was jotting down ideas for the book. And then I took a sabbatical 2 years ago, and I really just churned it all out. And then, it probably took 2 years from that point when I finished the manuscript to the publishing date, which was last week.
Awesome.
Philly really doesn't always get enough love nationally. How much of the local golf scene did you kind of work into the book? And are there any characters in Philly Phenoms that are maybe secretly based on real people that you've caddied for or had experience with in the area?
For sure. So the course in the book is based on Edgemont Country Club, which was in Newtown Square. Now it's a housing development. That's where I mostly grew up playing. It was a crazy place, like really, really blue collar. But then there were some wealthy, doctors and lawyers. So many of the characters are based on these guys who I just observed at the bar or at the driving range, just doing wacky things, including the antagonist in the book. I'm just a guy who only sees it his way, doesn't care what anybody else has to do. This is his club. He's going to bully people, push people around. And there was a guy like that in my childhood. Who even didn't care if you were a 10-year-old kid. So the 10-year-old kid, the protagonist in the book, Lee Lomax, battles with this 65-year-old guy, which is an interesting contrast. And then Edgemont also had, Charles Barkley playing a lot, and Gerald Henderson and Jimmy Lynam and Herb McGee and all those guys were there. Oh. And in addition, this former tour player named Ski Regal, who won the USM at Pebble Beach, he was there a lot when I was a kid, and I always wondered who this guy was. He would be at the top of the range by himself. Sometimes he had his dog with him. And my dad said, that's a legend, that's Ski Regal. There are crazy stories about him. He's a really, really interesting guy. So I weaved him into the story a tiny bit. And then, I grew up caddying at Merion Golf Club, started there in 1995. So some of the characters in the book are based on some people I met there as well, some caddies. some members. There were some really, really unique members when I was a kid.
I'm sure.
And they're still
What stories can you tell us from the Merion Caddy Shack that you're allowed to repeat on air?
I've told this story a few times, but when I was a kid, you signed in the bag room at Merion at 7 o'clock, sometimes 6:30, to get your name on the top of the list, and then you waited until your name was called. So, there were maybe 20 of us high school kids, and then literally probably 40 college men, people in their early 20s, people in their early 50s. So there were so many personalities in that shack, maybe a 12 by 15 foot space. So there were bound to be trouble, right? I would be pretending to read my summer reading book, and I'd be looking at all these guys thinking, okay, that guy's got it all together. He's just doing this because he loves the game. And then there are other guys who are going to go from the 18th green, get their cash, and go right to the bar and spend it all, and then do it again the next day. So there were guys like that. There was a guy who used to keep a 6-pack in the creek behind the caddy shack so it would stay cold out on the golf course.
Yeah.
Genius, actually.
Sleep in the caddy shack. There used to be a shower down there when I was a kid. It was wild. There'd be people, who would be sleeping on a bench, and then someone would roll them off the bench so they could sit down, and then a fight would occur. It was literally like no holds barred. It was crazy.
I love that you said you had to sign up on the sheet. Do you know if they still do that? Because I know we were at a party, a couple months ago, and one of the kids loops at Seminole, and he goes, "Oh, let me see what time I'm there tomorrow." And the caddy master literally hand writes out every guy's name for the next morning. I'm like, wow, they're still so classic and old school. Does Merion still do that handwriting and sign up like that?
So there are places that still do that. Merion has transitioned into like
digital.
a pretty sophisticated system. So I'm one of the assistant caddy masters now. So the caddies use an app. It's called 4Caddy. It's part of 4Ts, which a lot of clubs use for their tee times. So each caddy can customize his or her schedule every day, when they can be on property, when they can be off the property. And you can do that 3 weeks at a time.
Wow.
And then you get your tee time 2, 3, sometimes 4 days in advance. Confirm that you're going to be there, show up a half hour before. So that sign-up sheet at Merion doesn't exist. And the caddy shack is totally different now. So at a given time, unless there's a tournament, you might only have 2 or 3 guys hanging out in the shack, which is good or bad.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. So talking about the Philly Phenoms, it's what you call a middle grade sports fiction. It's written for junior golfers as well as those yet to pick up a club. I have a bunch of people, my nephew right now, that are all in golf camp. This is like the week right between whether they're starting camp or whatever else they're doing. To me, like that's a perfect age to really. Maybe some of the guys I know that you want your kid to get bit by the bug, but how do you kind of help them plan it a little bit? You put a little bait out there for them. Yep. Is that what you see as just a great way to maybe introduce some people to the game and have that feeling that you've had throughout your life and when it started for you around that age?
For sure. So there were a few different goals with the book, but that was definitely the main goal. And I wanted to do it in a way that wasn't overwhelming. So a lot of the technical golf terms in the book are accompanied by explanation, a lot of context clues. I taught English for a long time, so I wanted to make it an easy read first. And, so kids weren't struggling over every single word or phrase. I used a lot of simple language. And then, after teaching 6th grade English for a long time, kids get so bogged down by having to analyze every single word and phrase. Why is the author using this word? Why did the author change the setting? What's behind this character? What's his motivation? I really wanted to make it simple in that sense. And the same thing goes for golf. So it's a great introduction for kids who know nothing about golf. But then there's a lot of golf play-by-play that I think kids who have played before will really enjoy as well.
Very cool.
Yeah. Can you tell everybody how they can access this book and grab it, how we can order it?
Sure. It's available on Amazon and some other, major retailers. You just go to Amazon and type in the Philly Phenoms and it'll pop right up. So
Gotta love Amazon. Makes it so easy. Just be there tomorrow.
Moose and I needed a Philly Phenoms book when we were 13. We would have gotten started with the game
a lot
at a much
earlier.
earlier age. But so I appreciate what you're doing. But I'm fascinated by this with the writing aspect of it, like where you were a sports writer and so forth, but then you got this idea a long time ago, and you started with notes, and you note upon note. Take me through how the notes become the manuscript, because that's the part to me where I'm just like, it blows me away.
Yeah, so I just try to think about like telling a bunch of different stories and then kind of weaving in dialogue, obviously, into those stories, and then transitions from story to story. So when I was a kid, I played a ton of golf and a ton of basketball. So in the summer, if I wasn't at golf or basketball camp, I would go up to my elementary school here in Haverford Township, Coopertown, and just hit balls forever. And then if I got bored hitting balls, I would go to the basketball court and play basketball for a little bit, and then I'd go back to hitting balls. So I took that and I said, okay, I'm going to start there. And then there was a time when me and I used to bring my friends up too. I said, let's go hit golf balls. And they're like, what? We're going to stay in the air conditioning and play at the time, like Nintendo or Sega Genesis. So we were up there, and a kid sliced one really badly and broke a window in the school. And I came up with the idea to find a softball and stick it into the window so that we wouldn't get banned from playing golf. There are signs all over parks and playgrounds now, no golfing on school grounds or whatever. So I was like, well, if we put a softball in there and can take the golf ball out, then they won't, ban hitting golf balls up there.
That's genius.
So we went into the woods, like behind the softball fields, until we found a softball. And, I made it into like this kind of trek through the jungle. So that's an early scene in the book. And then there are a few other ones, like from when I was up at Edgemont hitting golf balls and battling this old crotchety member. So I just took the main stories and kind of tied them together in between.
That's Hal Rusted in the book, right? The crotchety.
Yeah, Hal Rusted. You can probably picture him. He walks super slow, always wears golf shoes, has his shirt untucked. His eyes are bloodshot. His cheeks are red. He wakes up and has a drink. He has a drink before bed. That kind of guy.
We know that guy. We
know a few of those guys.
So Nate, caddying is in your blood, right? Yeah. Talk about that, right? Your father, your uncle. Mm-hmm. Talk about the caddying side of things, and obviously it's very important to you, and where you do it is pretty incredible. But just talk about how that was instilled in you, maybe by your dad and your uncle.
Sure. So my dad and my uncle grew up in Southwest Philly. And and they found their way to Cobbs Creek. Their dad, who passed away before I was born, was a golfer and used to play at Cobbs Creek. And then eventually they started caddying at Philadelphia Country Club. And then on Mondays during section events, they would just go and, find a bag. And then a lot of caddies did that, and that's how they ended up caddying on tour. Wow. So my uncle did that. And then when my dad was old enough, he did that too. My dad caddied on tour, I think, for 3 or 4 years full time. And then I was born, and my mom was like, that's enough. he still jabs me for it. He's like, if it wasn't for you, I'd still be out there on tour. Like when my uncle had all that success caddying for Tom Watson, my dad's like, that could have been me. Could have been me on the 18th.
And you ruined it.
So my dad caddied on tour for Tom Pertzer. They won the LA Open in 1977 at Riviera. And then my uncle did it too, on and off, and he had a full-time job. And then when Bruce Edwards died, my uncle started caddying for Tom Watson.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible. He was on the bag in 2009 when he almost won the Open at Turnberry. And then when I was 14, my dad said, you're going to go over to Merion. He took me over, and I just started caddying. And I literally have pretty much been there every year since 1995. I took a year or two off when I was writing as a sports writer, and I couldn't do it. And then when I went back to school to get certified to teach, I went back to Merion. So I've been there pretty much for 30 years.
Didn't your uncle basically introduce Tom Watson to Bruce Edwards in a way?
Yeah, he has had so many connections, and he knows so many people that he's done that and everywhere he goes, just make introductions. He helped me a ton with another project that I'm working on, connecting me with a good friend of his, Michael Bamberger.
Oh yeah.
I have a couple more things in the works if I can find time to do them.
Well, you've been around some incredible players at Merion. Who is the best golfer that you've ever watched up close or maybe looped for?
2005, this is a cool story. U.S. Amateur, I caddied for a kid from Purdue named Bobby Bennett who missed the cut. And then I was writing for a really small community paper in Fishtown called The Spirit. So I was in the shower getting ready to go to work. And the caddy master at Merion, who's my boss now, Tim Carroll, called me and he said, a caddy didn't show up. You have to meet us on the first green. Can you do it? And I just yelled to my mom, like, Mom, I need you to get the car ready. We're going to Merion. And this was maybe a mile and a half away from my parents' house. So we meet him on the first green. I don't even have my bib on. A member carried his bag from the tee to the green. And I put the bib on and he has this huge, like 60-foot breaker from the back of the green to the front. And he's like, what do you think? And I was, I didn't even know what the heck was going on. I didn't even know his name. And then I pointed to his spot and he drained it. And his name was Kevin Chappell, who went on to be an NCAA individual champ at UCLA, won on the Korn Ferry Tour, won on the PGA Tour, played forever, still playing out there on Korn Ferry and some tour events. And he won a couple matches and we kept going. So it was a cool experience. He was definitely one of the best. And then I caddied for Patty Harrington once. And I tell people this story all the time. When we get to 11 at Merion, the famous hole where Bobby Jones clinched the Grand Slam. And Patty Harrington's like, watch this. And he tees it up on the back tee and takes like 5 steps back. I'm like, what's he going to do? He's kind of facing the golf hole now. And he just starts running like Happy Gilmore toward the golf ball and does the Happy Gilmore from 11T and drives it over the green.
Oh my God.
It was like a 345 carry. No joke. So that was definitely the cool thing out on the golf course. And he was unbelievable.
That's awesome.
How long did it take you to learn the greens at Merion? I mean, you started at, 14 or so? That had to be really intimidating going out there your first maybe year or so doing loops there.
Yep. So I think one of the things that helped me as a writer was that I've always been observant. I'm usually a quiet kind of kid who just sits back and watches. That's how I was when I was a kid. So I just watched like the pro caddies. They weren't pro caddies, but they were veteran caddies who could have been tour caddies for sure. Guys who loved it and loved getting in there and reading putts. And that's definitely the biggest obstacle for caddies, especially at Merion early on, because the greens are so difficult there. So I just watched and watched and watched. And, eventually I just started stepping in and, trying to read them the best I can. And there's still spots that kind of confuse me, especially 16 and 11's a tough green to read. 7 can be tough in some spots. I tell this story too. I'm not afraid to admit it. I caddied in the Curtis Cup in 2022 for a girl on a GB&I team named Annabelle Fuller, who played for the University of Florida. Great kid, playing on the Ladies European Tour now. And we were on 13, and the pin was front right, and we were back left. And the pin isn't always in that spot, and the golf ball hardly ever stays back there. So I remember seeing it, thinking, oh, God, I've never read this putt in my life, even after 30 years. So I literally thought she could avoid this big slope and putt it off to the right and just, kind of tap it in and make 3 and move on. But she really had to play it like 5 feet left and just tap it, and the slope would take it all the way down. So she started a little right like I asked her to, and it broke still like 5 feet right. And she looked at me, and I guess on the broadcast, I'm not sure who it was, but whoever was commentating on that hole was like, and there's another caddy in the group, even with 2 experienced Merion caddies and 2 great players, they still couldn't read the puck correctly. So the caddies let me have it. So that was at the start of the summer when I was just coming out of school, so I didn't have any loops under my belt. And, each spring, I think you need to get some loops under your belt to kind of
reorient. Get reacquainted.
Yeah. So it was a disaster, but, luckily I read a lot of them right, and that was one of the ones I missed.
But a testament to the course, which is obviously a top course in Philly. If you watch the show, I always ask this question. You can't pick Merion because we've already talked about it. What is your favorite Philadelphia course?
This is an easy one, and I tell people at Merion this all the time, especially when I caddy for a Gulf Mills member, because we have some Gulf Mills / Merion members. It's Gulf Mills by far. It's super quiet place. They might get 40 to 50 players a day versus, 3, sometimes 4 times that at Merion. The layout is outstanding. The land is really cool. The best thing about Merion is that there aren't 2 holes anywhere near alike, and there aren't 2 greens anywhere near alike. And I think you could say the same at Gulf Mills. Every hole is different. Every green is different. A lot of elevation changes. A lot of cool stuff going on there. So Gulf Mills right near KOP would be good for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out the Philly Phenoms wherever books are sold. I'm going to order a couple for my nephews right now for their summer reading. And congratulations. I know that was a labor of love and to get to the finish line. And I already see your wheels spinning for your next project. So
we'll have to have you on again.
It's going to be a good one. I'm switching back to the nonfiction world. So stay tuned. This is going to be a wild one.
Awesome.
Looking forward to
excited to hear it. Thanks for joining us and continued success. Let's take a quick break and we will be right back.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right. Welcome back to Swing It and Ding It. Great to talk to Nate Oxman.
Yeah, very cool.
He's probably seen it all at Merion too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, man.
Imagine being 14, your dad just being like, come on, time to go to Merion now. Like, sure, fine.
Man, unbelievable. Check it out. The Philly Phenoms. Looks like a great book for the young junior golfer or motivating a young person to become a junior golfer. I might do it. Yeah. I might grab one for my daughter too. Get her interested. One of them. The Travelers.
You got 25%.
Yeah, got a lot of options. Keegan Bradley, everybody. Down 3 with 4 to play. I mean, obviously you on 18, the 9-iron to 6-foot birdie, but there was so much going on that hole too, right? You have Fleetwood, his situation. Then all of a sudden Henley just chips one in. The crowd's going crazy. You got to refocus. Fleetwood does not execute. Gives Keegan a read, to say the least, and Keegan gets it done. 15 under, 265, $3.6 million, and just dominates the Ryder Cup conversation.
USA.
Wild finish in Connecticut, to say the least.
Yeah, I actually caught those last couple of holes, and we were talking with some guys at my club that day. You think Tommy gets it done? I'm like, no.
I literally almost texted you, Harry, and it was going to be like your guy.
He's not going to win, and it's not like I'm rooting against him. But yeah, you mentioned Keegan Bradley, the 8th win, his 4th in the last 3 years. A repeat now at the Travelers. He's a 2-time winner there, which is the New England event, so it means a lot to him, and they mean a lot, or he means a lot to them. It's his 9th top 20 of the year, 3 top 10s in his last 4 tournaments. And now you mentioned Moose, he's 9th in the Ryder Cup points list, and I'm looking at some of those other names, that could be captain's picks. Like, is he taking Maverick McNeely over himself? No way. No way am I doing that. No. I might even boot out Ben Griffin for Keegan Bradley at this point. And Griffin's 100%. playing great golf with 2 wins. One was a team event, but yeah, he was outstanding. And I love, when the crowd gets behind him with all the USA stuff, and so cool. He feeds off of it. Some golfers do, and some sort of tune it out or try to tune it out, but he loves it. And the more, I think, even if he played in a hostile environment, he would feed off the hostility, like you do in a Ryder Cup scene. So he's perfect for this. To me, he has to be on the team. And I think he'll play well this week too. Notice he's playing again right after he won an elevated event. I think he wants to make sure he locks this down so it's like a no-brainer that Keegan's going to be a playing captain, and so be it. But Tommy Fleetwood, to me, was the story. Yeah. He bogeyed 16 and 18 to lose. He hit it over the green on 16, and then he misses a 7-footer on 18. But the decision with the clubbing on 18, I think, is what really did him in. He didn't believe in it. He didn't believe in that shot with that club, and it came up short. And he ends up losing. But all class, Tommy Fleetwood is. Tommy Fleetwood faced the media immediately after, and opened up his heart to what was happening with that. And that's what we want. And that's all we ask these guys. Morikawa, McIlroy, take note. That guy has never won on the PGA Tour. Nobody wants a win more than him. And he was there to face the media as the class act that he is. And I applaud him for it.
No doubt. No doubt about it. I mean, gutted, right?
Yes.
The angle where he can't even watch the putt go in, right? The entire crowd's against you. All you have to do is execute. You're in position. You're in the middle of the fairway, and doesn't get it done.
Could force a playoff at least. At least.
I literally thought we were going to see a playoff.
Yeah. Now, how about the Henley story?
Oh,
right?
He chips in,
and he gave himself a penalty. He said the ball moved a dimple. Are you guys calling a penalty on yourself if a ball moves a dimple?
First of all, I can't see if a ball moves a dimple. I'm 60 years old this Sunday, Moose. I got no shot even with these on. But yeah.
But you have to. You have to. I've
not if I don't see it.
Well, if you don't see it, but if it moves at all, it's just I actually was on the bag for Brandon before, and it was definitely on Latin Tour, and he was, I don't know, maybe T2, like in contention to win. I think he still placed pretty high that week, but in the bunker, like went to put his club down, it moved a little bit. He's like, I got to call a penalty on myself. I'm like, what? I was like, are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, I know.
I didn't see anything.
I was like, that did not move, but he had to call a penalty. So I think it's just part of the game. It's the integrity. Like you have to call whether it moves a dimple or not.
Yeah. Yes. Well, some of the other guys, you have Jason Day with a T4.
Yep.
Rory and Scheffler wind up T6, which was interesting when you see it. And then JT T9 gets a top 10. Sure. But yeah, I mean, it was all about the finish. It was all about 18. That is a great finishing hole. It's becoming, I think Amanda quoted it as one of the great theaters in the game of golf now, and it truly is. Just add Keegan to the mix and the crowd up there, and it just was an awesome finish. I mean, think about all that went on that one hole with Henley, Fleetwood, Keegan. I mean, that's enough drama that's a full episode of Full Swing in one hole.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. Yeah. But how's he 9 in Ryder Cup and 7 in the world? I don't know.
That doesn't, that math isn't mathing.
That doesn't jive to me. But I'll tell you, Saturday I had to go to another 60th birthday party for a guy that I grew up with. So I'm going to miss the golf, right? Because I knew they wouldn't have it on and I couldn't be watching it there anyway. So I DVR'd it, right? And I'm so looking forward to watching Scotty and JT in the final pairing, like just together, knowing it's not even the final round. I had JT in my one and done, so I was really pumped up for this. I watched the first hole before I left for the party. Scotty puts up a freaking triple on the first hole. He makes a 7, hits all ball out of the bunker.
Oh, yeah.
Airmails the green, then hits the chip, and it rolls right back to him, makes a 7, a total mess. JT birdies it, so he's now got a 4-shot lead. Then he ends up putting a quad up on the 13th hole, par 5, hit it in the water, I guess, once or twice. And the whole round went to, I didn't even watch it. Like two of the best players in the world, just putting up these unbelievable scores. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. JT, you mentioned T9. That was all because of that one hole. If he makes par there, he's in the mix down the stretch on Sunday, and who knows what happens.
Yeah.
Well, Harry, you mentioned those names too, and then you sent something in our group text with just the broadcast and the first round viewership up 37%.
Yeah.
Which was the biggest opening round in almost 20 years.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
Then obviously Keegan probably, and those other players pulled in some additional coverage because CBS pulled in 3.5 million viewers on the final day, which is wild.
It's pretty crazy though, because when you think about it, Keegan Bradley, Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley is not JT, Scotty Scheffler, you know what I mean?
Rory,
like Jordan
right,
Spieth, Rory, and all those guys.
Still
That's
household
really
names,
good, really good numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of JT, let's go to the T, sponsored by Wear SPF.
Yeah, well, Harry started a little bit with the Keegan Ryder Cup buzz, so I really want to get into this a little bit more because obviously after this win that we just talked about, the Travelers, the signature event, Keegan, the big conversation is that for a guy who has more PGA Tour wins than anybody not named Scotty Scheffler, what do we do? Is he going to be the playing captain? Is he not? he should have been on the Ryder Cup. That Netflix episode lives rent free in my head. I just feel so bad for him, where I'm like, he's like telling his wife, like, get ready, like they're coming over and I'm going to get the nod. And he doesn't get it. And then, captain. And it's just like, what is he going to do? The last Ryder Cup playing captain was Arnold Palmer in 1963. I was looking that up because I was like, wait, like who's done this? When's the last time? And then I was like, wait a second. Okay. It really like hasn't been done. But my vote, I say we let him play. He's a Northeast guy, went to St. John's. He calls Bethpage his favorite course in the world. Yeah. His first hole in one there. I think it's a no brainer. We mentioned that he's 7th in the world ranking. So, Keegan even said after this win, it changes the story a little bit. I never would have thought about playing if I hadn't won. This definitely opens the door to play. Right. But I'm saying, here's my question to you guys. If Team USA doesn't have Keegan as playing captain, are they actually putting out their best team?
No.
Not right now. No.
I mean, you play in the singles, obviously, because all 12 guys play in that. And then maybe play in one or two of the other rounds out of the other 4. Team events, he'll find his best playing partner, and he plays 3 times. He doesn't play in all 5. He can, there's captain duties and all that, but he's got assistant captains that can take up the load, delegate, man, and go play.
Exactly, delegate. Yeah, that's all he has to do. Right. But speaking of
that's what Moose does at the radio station.
Master delegator. You have to. That's how you get stuff done. But we just mentioned full swing. So Ben Griffin's fiance, Dana, she was on this podcast that's a little bit newer. It's called Birdie Little Secrets, where these 2 girls that host, they have on mostly like PGA Tour wives or Korn Ferry wives, and they, have to share a birdie little secret at the end of the show. And Dana said, okay, I asked, Ben, if I could share this. Full Swing is starting to film us tomorrow. But there's an asterisk by that, with her saying that they don't know if it'll ever air. Netflix will come out and start filming, but it's either like, you guys are interesting enough or you're not, or, wait till some drama happens or whatever. So we could see Ben Griffin.
Interesting.
Full Swing coming soon. So,
cool.
Yeah. Moving on with some tea. This one's for my guy, Harry, because I know he loves Rory. So over on the DP World Tour, Rory gave us a moment. I don't know if you guys saw, he hit this flop shot and the divot basically traveled just as far as the ball. He also had a nice hole out for eagle in the par 4 third hole from like 115 out. Just kind of spun back into the cup, and he goes, hole out, like kind of threw his hand out or up in the air. So just wanted to, share some Rory love from my guy, Harry.
Absolutely. Hey, I don't deny his talent. He's terrific.
Yeah. And moreover, on the DP World Tour, I feel like I don't talk about it enough. Marcel Siem. Do you guys know Marcel?
Yes, the German guy with the little ponytail, right?
Entertaining. Like, I mean, I went down a rabbit hole of Marcel. I was like, this is just so funny, but this is some golf chaos. He's a funny guy. This man set 3 course records, one being at Pebble Beach, running on no sleep, completely hammered. And he quoted, I threw up twice in the round. He still shot 62 with a 3-putt on 18.
Wow.
He played with Kelly Slater, who confirmed that Siem was on 59 watch by hole 7. He flopped in an eagle from the rough on 6. He said it was just absolute like mayhem. And Marcel was saying like, yeah, I played with Kelly, which was awesome. He goes, I don't know if he knew that I threw up. He goes, he probably smelled it or whatever. And then Kelly commented on the Instagram post. He's like, no, dude, you told me after the round that you threw up. But he said he finished and he's like, all right, I'm going to like eat a hoagie and go to bed or whatever. And they're like, no, you just shot like a course record. Like you're, amongst the likes of, like Arnold Palmer and naming all these like other guys who had a course record there. And they're like, we need to interview you. And he's like, I'm done. But apparently 3 course records, all running on no sleep, completely hammered. So I thought that was funny. If you guys go over to the DP World Tour Instagram and then check that out, there's a pretty good interview with him.
Kelly Slater's the surfer, right? The famous surfer.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you guys saw this, but James Piot is back in the mix, kind of. Remember, he was one of those first guys to jump ship and go to Live Golf. Mm-hmm. He hasn't played a Live event since 2023, which now makes him eligible for PGA Tour events. And guess what? The Rocket Mortgage gave him the call. So this is the first Live defector to get a sponsor exemption. He's in the field this week, home game, because he's from Michigan. So
interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Wow. Yeah, I think he played at Michigan State. I think. I remember when he went to Live.
Yeah, he was one
Yeah.
of the first to go
Yeah.
over. So,
Yeah.
but and then I don't know, he hasn't played since 2023, so I don't know if that was like a rankings or he fell off or what happened. But so yeah, I'm interested to see like, if he places, it makes the cut and places, if what that does in terms of playing more events, because this is again a sponsor exemption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that is the tea. So this is presented by Wear SPF, looking for sun protection that actually works and feels great. Wear SPF by PGA Pro Justin Thomas has you covered on and off the course. Dermatologist tested and sweat resistant. It's broad spectrum SPF that won't mess up your swing or your skin. From the first tee to everyday life, protect yourself like the pros. Shop now at wearspf.com. That's wearspf.com. And stay sun safe all year long.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Harry, before we started, we were talking to Nate, and the heat does not bother you. You're out there, you're swinging golf clubs right now. Is that right?
Yes. I was out yesterday for about an hour and a half on the short game area at the 1912 Club. And there were a couple other groups out there playing too. Some of the guys that I know were out there too, but not a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean it is insanely hot these past couple days.
But I wear one of the big, old guy hats, that goes all the way, like the caddies wear, and it really keeps the heat off your face and your neck. It makes a difference.
You wear that hat and you wear SPF and you're good to go.
Exactly. On my arms and on my legs. Yes, absolutely.
Are you a sleeve guy, Harry?
No, I haven't gone there yet, but I might.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it.
I went and saw our friend Corey Riley, former guest of the program, great club fitter down at 5 Iron Golf. I got some new irons, man.
I saw that.
Yeah.
It was time.
Yeah.
It was time. So I
got the Apexes?
the Callaway Apex. Yeah. So I gotta bust them out.
Would you get 6 through wedge?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. I don't do 4 or 5. I just did 6
I don't
through,
do 6 anymore either, but yeah, you'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to trying them out.
Very
looking
good.
forward to. Do you have any other rounds scheduled right now, Harry?
Nothing outrageous. Probably play, for my birthday this weekend. I turned 60 this weekend.
Whoa.
What
big
day?
one.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Happy early birthday.
29th, yeah.
That's a big
That's
one.
close. We have to say happy birthday to Teddy. He turned 65 yesterday.
Oh,
wow.
Yes. And then my daughter turns 1 tomorrow. So it's a week of
that's
Swing
a
It and
big
Ding It
weekend.
fan birthdays. Yeah.
Absolutely.
unbelievable. Tremendous.
That's terrific. But I'm going to
Tremendous
be out there today, too. I'm going out. I'm actually going over to Lulu late this afternoon. So
See, at least you guys
Nice.
can still play. Everything down here is closed.
Is it?
It's, yeah. I mean, there's reciprocals at certain clubs, but they kind of try to like rotate through, but everything is shut down. I mean, it's 100% humidity, 90 to 100 degrees every day, or feels like 100. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get around in a Bala, go see our buddy Chris Hansen.
Oh, nice.
Next week, and then play Legacy Club. But talk about birthday gifts. How about Buy My Balls? I mean, that'd be a great little subscription. You tee off with top tier balls without the top tier price. BuyMyBalls.com. Top quality recycled premium brands for a fraction of the price. Go to BuyMyBalls.com. That's balls with a Z. And as we look ahead to the Rocket Mortgage, this is always a fun event. I mean, it's tough. You're coming off of U.S. Open and a signature event. It does not sit in the greatest place on the calendar. I think you only have 3 guys that are under 2,000 odds: Keegan, Cantlay, and Colin Morikawa. But let's talk about the course, of course, in Detroit.
Yeah, the Detroit Golf Club. Donald Ross designed back in 1916, a classic track, and Tyler Ray actually has done a renovation here in the last year of the North Course. Par 72, 7,370 yards, similar length to Oakmont. The greens, 5,150 square feet on average. And they are bent grass and Poana. The fairways, approaches, and collars are the same. The rough is that Kentucky bluegrass mix, and it's 4 inches and growing. 87 sand bunkers, only 1 water hazard, and it's in play on 1 hole, the par 5, 14th hole. Average fairway is 30 yards wide. Numbers 1 and 2 are actually numbers 8 and 9 for the members, and number 3 is played from the north side's 1 tee to the south's 1 green. Kind of strange the way they do that. But this is a place where you got to have great wedge game and putting. It's not daunting for these guys off the tee. but it's wedges and putting. I'm assuming they're doing that 3-1-3 challenge again on holes 14, 15, and 16. I think 313 is the area code out there, and it's like if you make an eagle on 14, which is a 3, a eagle on a hole in 1 on 15, par 3, and then a birdie on 16, you win like some incredible prize given away by Rocket Mortgage. Yeah, I don't think anybody's come close to doing it yet, but this is a cool design. Like you mentioned, Moose, it's like one of these weeks where it's sort of an exhale where you're just like, all right, and maybe I'll just play my own golf, might not tune in, but there's guys in the field, like you mentioned, are there for a reason. They need a win. Morikawa, Cantlay, Wyndham Clark, Cam Young is getting close again. He's starting to play really good golf, and all 4 of those guys could really use a W. And Min-Woo Lee is also in the field. He's got to win this year in Houston, but his sister just won her 3rd major of her career by 3 shots, this past week in Texas. So maybe Minji's success will motivate Min-Woo, and maybe he comes through with another W this week.
Yeah, no doubt. You have Cam Davis, who won this event twice, including last year, Ricky Fowler in 2023, and Tony Finau in 2022. So yeah, Harry, to your point, there's no like one kind of person that can win this.
Right.
You get a little bit of everything here.
And Finau withdrew now. He's no longer in the field. He was in the field, but he's withdrawn. I don't know if he's hurt or what.
Yeah. Well, let's see the line with our friends at Bet Parx and hear a little bit more about them. All right, so let's see. You got Morikawa, right? We talked about only a couple guys under that 2,000. Yeah, Morikawa looking at the Bet Parx board at 1,200, Cantlay 1,600, Keegan Bradley 1,800, then Ben Griffin at 2,200. You mentioned Cam Young. How about Hideki Matsuyama?
Yeah.
Sitting at 3,000. That's an interesting one. I like a matchup here. Cantlay plus 105 head to head over Colin Morikawa. I know Cantlay's been struggling. Like he's such a great putter and he seems to be struggling a little bit, but when those guys find it, lights out. And I think he's someone that he wants to be playing better right now. I think, again, the Ryder Cup implications are huge for a bunch of these guys in the field. Ben Griffin, right? The one you talked about. So,
Cantlay has a 2nd place here too. And I think the one other time he's played it. So that's the golf course.
Yeah. I see a lot of love for Matt Fitzpatrick this week.
Yeah.
Too.
So
interesting at that 4,000 number. That is an interesting one. Also Keith Mitchell right in that same area. What are you seeing here?
Well, I'm going with Akshay. For some reason, I'm seeing Akshay Bhatia.
There's no palm trees here.
No, I know, but he's
Detroit.
He's played well here before, and he's another guy in need of a good week. He's kind of been off a little bit, and he took some rest, and I think he's a really good wedge player. He's not great around the greens if he misses the green. Not a great chipper, but he's a really good putter. So I think his wedge game and putting will play well here. Plus 180 in a top 20, and I'm going to probably take him in my one and done. And I'm taking him over Min-Woo in a matchup at minus 115. You mentioned Ben Griffin. I'm taking him minus 150 over Cam Young in a matchup. And Luke Clanton is in the field again. This is, I guess, his 2nd tournament now as a professional. Didn't do too badly in his first one. Plus 170 in a top 20. I will take it.
How about Max Homa? 7,500.
Yeah, man.
That's a long number. And the other
guy
when
he finds it, he's going to find it again.
Right.
Really, nobody works harder at trying to get back than that guy. He will find it.
That's why it's worth throwing a couple bucks on him, even in the top 10. The other guy, I don't know why, Steven Jaeger is popping out to me. That's a big number at 6,000. But yeah, we'll see how it shakes out.
It definitely is. Akshay. Who was the other guy I was looking at? Cantlay, I know we mentioned needs a big week. There's so many. Wyndham Clark. I'm really curious to see what he's got this week. There's some people in the betting markets that really like him this week.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that too.
Yeah, aren't you? And I was just like, wow, But who knows? I mean, these guys that are this good, it's like one day they can just sort of figure it out. And away they go.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah. But I got some shout-outs that I've forgotten over the last couple of weeks to throw out here. A couple of guys at the 1912 Club were one's a champion, Caleb Ryan. Methodist University won the Division III NCAA championship. It's a college down in North Carolina. He was part of the starting five NCAA champs, and he's in the golf program down there, and he'll be working at Gulf Mills this summer in his internship, looking to be a club pro and run a golf course someday very soon. And his brother Josh Ryan finished T10 at the Sunny Hannah Amateur back the same week at the U.S. Open that in Johnstown, PA, just about maybe 45 minutes or so from Oakmont.
Love the Sunny Hannah.
The Sunny Hannah.
Oh,
He got a top 10. I think he finished T8 in that event. So congratulations to both those brothers. And Evan Brown, a local guy, is getting his first PGA Tour start this week. He Monday Q'd into the Rocket Mortgage. He's a guy from Kennett Square Golf Club, also plays out down in Hilton Head. But he played college golf at Loyola, Maryland, and then his final year of eligibility at Ole Miss. And I happened to run in him down at the PGA show for about a half hour. Had a great conversation with Evan, so good luck to him this week.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And how about a congrats to our Legacy Club member champs, Jordan Rosenblatt and Dave Alperstein took it down. So, yeah, I played that course on Thursday before the member. It was like the Oakmont rough. I'm like, what are we doing here? Yeah. It was brutal. So anyone who won that event, they had to work hard and to get it done. So
you got thick and very consistent rough, if I remember, over there at the Legacy Club. It can be deep and it's thick.
Yeah, and the greens were rolling. So
yeah. Oh, and also Miguel Angel Jimenez. I know we don't talk much about the Champions Tour, but he won for the fourth time this season. Made a 20-foot putt on the second playoff hole to beat Steven Alker, and he needed a birdie finish on 17 and 18 to just force the playoff. But it's his third major and his 17th career win on PGA Tour Champions. He's now 61 years old, so we're looking at maybe like a Bernhard Langer light here at this age. So it's really cool. Me turning 60 this week, I'm especially, inspired by these old guys, who can still get it done. And the U.S. Senior Open is actually this week at the Broadmoor in Colorado.
Rod's out there.
I'm very interested to see, some of that golf course.
Yeah. Great stuff. Thanks to Nate Oxman for joining us. Make sure you check out the Philly Phenoms. Great gift for the young aspiring junior golfer in your life. And we'll be back next week, getting closer to the last major of the year. Can't believe it.
Hard to believe, man.
Crazy.
It really is.
So fast.
Yeah, only like 8 or 9 more events in the whole calendar till the end of the playoffs. The one and done, it's getting tight.
It is.
It's getting tight.
For some people, yeah. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.